Once you take those pills out of the actual container and then you put them into another container, that's a felony. These drugs were for personal use for somebody who had a drug problem. All you see is this video of him missing his Ferg, throwing a girl down, missing a kick in his sock, stomping on her leg, and dragging her for about 2 seconds. And that devastated you. Oh my gosh. RICO! Where's the RICO? Or as my man Uta Ongo says, is it RICO or is it FRICO? And that's the conversation we're going to be having today. So let's get started with the drug trafficking. All right. Guys, there's a lot of these RICO predicate acts that he's been accused of. Just to review a few of them. We've got kidnapping. We've got arson. We've got bribery. We've got extortion. We've got trafficking. I believe the Mann Act is one of them. And we've got drug trafficking. So at least 7. There might be more than 7. But let's do drug trafficking. You know what? Let's put it up on the screen so I don't have to tell you guys. We'll go directly to the statute and we'll read the statute as to what drug trafficking is. See, do you mind reading the statute for us, please?
Drug trafficking is the illegal transporting of or transacting in controlled substances. Under federal law, Title 21, subsection 841 makes it unlawful for any person to knowingly or intentionally manufacture, distribute, or dispense, or possess with intent to manufacture, distribute, or dispense an controlled substance.
Thank you for that. If you guys see this, there are very, very important things that we have to make sure that we can see here. Okay. One is knowingly or intentionally manufacture, distribute, dispense, or possess with the intent to manufacture, distribute, or dispense a controlled substance. A controlled substance, basically illegal drugs. Okay, guys, it's very important to understand that even if you don't knowingly do it, or if you don't intentionally do it, if you even had the intent to do so, right? Again, we're reading this law not only for this case, but we're just wanting to understand the law altogether. Basically, if you don't do it, but you intended to do it, it still counts as drug trafficking. I repeat, if you don't do it, but you intended to do it, it still counts as drug trafficking. So that's very, very important to understand. Okay, guys? So basically what we have here is one of Puff's assistants, his drug dealer, Brandon, whatever his name is, the weird looking white guy that went to Syracuse and played basketball. That guy, he was supposed to be on the stand today, but then we got court adjourned for today. So he's going to be on the stand, I'm assuming Friday, Monday, the latest, because tomorrow's a holiday. And I'm assuming he's going to testify to some sort of drug trafficking charge. And then we have the Jane Doe. And the Jane Doe also testified to trafficking as well. Okay. She testified as to being a mule. Here's the thing, guys. Can you put that back up on the screen one more time? Thank you. We know that Puff wasn't manufacturing or dispensing. So what do we have here? We have distribution. What distribution is considered? Can you just highlight that word distribution there, please, so everybody can see that? Distribution of a controlled substance. This is an important word because distribution is not just selling. Distribution is also transferring from one person to another. I repeat, distribution is not just selling. Distribution is transferring from one person to another. So where we have people bringing drugs to Puff when he's having his hotel nights with his girlfriend and him giving those drugs to his girlfriend, that's technically transferring from one person to another. Now, repeat, where you have somebody bringing drugs to Puff at the hotel or bringing it to his home or whatever, because Jane Doe, she testified to picking up some drugs, bringing it to his home. She testified to doing drugs that she brought to his home. And other assistants testified to bringing drugs to him and him doing them. And then Jane Doe and Cassie both testified to them doing drugs that he gave them that was brought there, technically that is transferring from one person to another. Okay. There is, however, a big difference between distribution, so drugs being trafficked for distribution, and drugs being moved from one place to another for distribution, or drugs being moved from one place to another for personal use. It cannot be distribution and personal use at the same time. It's either this is drug distribution or this is personal use. This is hilarious. When I see people in the trial, they're thinking that the reason why the defense keeps bringing up the fact that Puff is a drug addict is to make him look less bad, is to make him look like he doesn't really always do this domestic violence. It's only when he has bad drugs. Now, they did say that in the opening statement, by the way, and Cassie did testify to that in her text messages when she was talking about the freak offs. How do I know you're not going to have bad drugs and throw me around like a rag doll, or drink too much and throw me around like a rag doll? Basically, that's what she said. Is like when you have bad drugs, you get so high and so out of your mind that you start abusing me when you have bad drugs or when you drink too much. So they did mention that. But the reason why the cross examination from the defense has been so much about his drug habits was not because they were, and lawyers say this, people on CNN say this, ABC say this, Long Crime Network on YouTube say this. And these are all lawyers that are saying this, like, oh, well, just because he's on drugs or he's drinking doesn't mean that he is excused from the domestic violence or excused from trafficking. That's not why they're bringing up the fact that he's always on drugs and he's a drug addict. They're bringing up the fact that he's a drug addict so that they can show the jury that these drugs that are coming to him are for personal use, not distribution. Now, there are a number of things that we have to consider when it comes to distribution, and we'll get to that at the end of the video. But a reasonable jury, based on the amount of drugs that are brought, it's not a suitcase of drugs that are brought. Based on the amount of drugs that are brought to these hotels, you can understand that it's not a substantial amount that would be considered anything outside of personal use. And based on the fact that it has been made very clear by the defense cross examination of the people on the stand that Puff has been considered a drug addict. Jane Doe said he was a drug addict. She said his hands were shaking. She suggested that he go to rehab. And I don't even want to get into how she suggested that. She tried to finesse a trip out of him going to rehab. She tried to finesse a trip to Asia and leveraged him being in need of rehab. Cassie said she thought it was hypocritical that Puff was telling her that she has to be easy on the drugs when he's doing drugs every day. The Bono balcony girl, she attested to selling Puff drugs in the past. All of his assistants testified to bringing him drugs and selling him drugs. Everybody the defense has cross-examined has admitted to the defense during cross-examination that this guy was heavy on the drugs. He was basically a junkie. He was a drug addict. He was functioning drug addict. That's basically what he was. The reason why they keep bringing this up is to then, in the closing arguments, show that this is simply a person that is a drug addict. These drugs that are being brought to him are not for distribution, they are for personal use. These drugs are for personal use, and you're going to see it Friday or Monday when that Brandon guy gets on the stand. When he gets on the stand, the defense is probably going to cross examine him the same way. Hey, and how much drugs would you bring for Puff? And would you have to bring drugs for him often? Would you consider him an addict? They're going to paint that picture. There's a lot of people who just aren't familiar with the law. They're here just to report. Maybe this is their first time reporting something, or sometimes they're just here to help their channel. And their channel might be a gossip channel, or they're covering the latest news and stuff like that for their channel, but they don't really understand the law. Okay. So you can't really blame them, but we do have to hold them accountable for at least giving you the right news. And the defense is trying to say these drugs were for personal use for somebody who had a drug problem. That's it. These are personal use drugs for somebody who clearly was a junkie. Clearly, this person wasn't out there trying to distribute drugs. That would be drug trafficking. And again, yes, you can give drugs to your girlfriend. That could happen. And that technically would be transferring to one person to another. But remember in our video about kidnapping, we talked about context, we talked about intent, we talked about those things. And those things are very important: context, intent. And those are things that the jury is going to have to weigh. I'm assuming that the judge is going to give them those jury instructions, because it's not just about the gray area or you're technically out of the parameters of the law. And so technically, this is what happened. Somebody said to me the other day that if you're an old person, and when I say old person, I'm saying pretty young person, anywhere between 50 and 70, and you have like number of medications, and some of them you don't take every day, but some of them you take X amount of days a week. And I have right now, right over there, I have one of those Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday little pill containers where I take my supplements, where I take my, I have my lion's mane, I have my road. I'm not going to go through my entire stack. I don't want to give you guys that for free. I might start a channel one day. No, I'm joking, but I have a whole bunch of supplements that I take. Okay. And my point is, not all supplements or not all medication, let's say medication, that older people between the age of 50 and say 70 or over, not all of those medications they have to take every day. They might be on blood pressure medication, for example, maybe medication for certain things with their bones, or certain things with diabetes, or certain things with these things that happen to us as we start aging. Not all of them you have to take every day. So oftentimes, like my grandmother used to do, you put it in the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then that's what you do. Do you know that's a felony? Do you know that's a felony? Because once you take those pills out of the actual container that they were given to you in, and then you put them into another container, that's a felony. So should we arrest half of the senior citizens in America? And this is what I'm talking about. It's intent, guys. It's not that technically you broke the law. It's the intent, it's the context, it's the understanding that this right here is the law. Because if we start doing that, we're setting a whole new precedent. And part of what is taken into account is why these laws were created in the first place. Drug trafficking wasn't created for drug addicts, it was created for drug dealers. I repeat, drug trafficking, the law wasn't created for drug addicts, it was created for drug dealers. Puff is not a drug dealer. That matters. So there's so many people that just don't understand how this stuff works, and they just keep spewing nonsense out into the world, into the media, especially the mainstream media, because they have an entire whole agenda. But guys, I'm here to just give you the facts, no chase, just straight, no chase, and give it to you guys exactly how it is. There are a number of things that the jurors are going to be told to consider by the judge during jury instructions. It's not just black and white. Well, technically, you got drugs delivered to you, and you shared those drugs with your girlfriend, so you traffic drugs because it went from one person to another. Well, then you know what? 75% of the population between the ages of 18 and 35. I'm not between that age, by the way. Between the ages of 18 and 35, they are drug traffickers. We're not going to set that precedent. And that's the problem that a lot of you guys have. You're trying to fit a square peg in a round hole because you don't like this guy and you want to get this guy. Okay. He is clearly having these drugs delivered to him for personal use. And you see how nuts some of you guys are? Again, not the people who are supporting this channel. It's the people who are on this channel that hate on me and argue with me. Please argue with me in the comments. Bring up all the stuff that you want. But do you see how nuts and far gone from reality people are? That they will say, because he got his assistant to get him drugs for him and his girlfriend, that's RICO. Oh my gosh. Guys, this is the precedent that you guys want to set. This is the precedent that you guys want to set. It's an organization. He got his assistant to get him the drugs so that him and his girlfriend could have a freaky hotel night. That's RICO. You got to be careful, guys. You got to be careful for what you're asking for. You're so caught up in your emotions. You're so caught up in Me Too. You're so caught up in this soft generation. You're so caught up in being triggered left and right. I'm triggered, I'm triggered, I'm triggered, I'm triggered. You're talking to a victim of abuse. Got the beat out of me for, I'm not even going to say how long, by people who are older than me. You're talking because you are wanting a voice. This is not the way to get the voice. Jumping on bandwagons and narratives and complaining about stuff is not the way to get a voice. Trying to attach yourself to victims is not the way to get a voice. Helping victims become leaders and get out of that is the way to get a voice. Trying to attach yourself to certain movements is not the way to get a voice. Leading your own movement is the way to get a voice. And that's what we're trying to do over here. We're trying to help you guys to get your own voice. Following the stuff that you see on the news, come on, you should know better than that by now. It's 2025. How many times you got to be fooled before it's your fault? What is it? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. How many times the media got to fool you with their false narratives? How many times before you realize, wow, I'm the fool? Critical thinking. You guys remember that in school? Remember that part of our report card that said critical thinking? Remember that? That's all I'm asking you to do. Think about this logically because this is going to affect you, your loved ones. If you know anybody who's having a child this year or had a child last year or had a child in the last 5 years, their children, if you've had a child in the last 5 years, your children, if you plan to have a child in the next 10 years, your future children, that's who this is going to affect. And you're just concerned about, I hate Puff. Forget my loved ones. Forget what this means for my kids. Forget what that means for everybody else. I just want somebody to go down. So I'm going to try and pin anything technically. And we could put this square peg in this round hole and we'll get them. You know, that's lynch mob mentality. Did you know that? That's lynch mob mentality. That's the way they used to hang people. That's the way they used to stone people back in the day. You know those prostitutes back in the day that you read about and they used to stone them to death? That's the way that stuff used to happen. That's mob mentality. That's the way that stuff happens. That's cult mentality because none of you guys can think for your damn selves and say, let's think about this logically. What does this mean for me? What does this mean for the people I love? What does this mean for the future? Nope, nobody gives a damn. Just want to go and get Puff because you hate rich people, because you hate men, because you hate black people, because you hate people, because you hate celebrities, because you hate Americans. What? Because you hate musicians. What? Because you hate wife beaters. What? I had some people say put him under the jail. Y'all don't even know what he did. All you see is this video of him missing his fur, throwing a girl down, missing a kick in his sock, stomping on her leg, and dragging her for about 2 seconds. And that devastated you. Oh my gosh. Is that assault? Yes. Is that disgusting? Yes. Is that bad? Yes. Do you really need a warning before that video? Probably not. Let's wrap this up, guys. I appreciate you guys being on with me. I give it to you straight. No chase. I don't know how to fake. It's in my DNA. I've been saying it's not my DNA, but it is in my DNA. There are some people that are related to me that fake the hell out of it. But it didn't reach me. It didn't reach me. So I'm going to continue to keep giving you guys the truth. And I hope you guys will take the truth and become leaders. And if you are already a great leader, just become a better leader and inspire other people to be leaders alongside you. We don't have enough in this world. We don't have enough in this society. Everybody is following the masses, not realizing that the M is silent. Silent. And when you take the M out of following the masses, who are you following? Write it in the comments. That's right. Go and be great, guys. It's a choice every single day that you have to make. And don't put off anything that you could do today to tomorrow. And with that being said, I'm out. Peace.